Good day, mates. I just want to share my thoughts on the TBS Gemini here real quick. There are some issues with it that should be addressed in V2, but overall I'm pretty pleased and pretty happy with it. And most of you probably are, but just want to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way on how to be successful with the TBS Gemini. First thing I want to talk about is the mounting for the canopy. We all know that the metal strip tabs is just not ideal. What I've come up with is taking the little nuts, I think they're like 1 millimeter or something like that, and I epoxy them in place. Just make sure when you do that, you place them accurately and as close to the edge as possible so that they sit right on the magnets, and it actually works very well. I don't lose the canopy at all. It holds right where it should. It's very easy to remove, and I mean, it's just very simple and very effective. Does it need to be addressed in the V2? Yes, it does. The next thing I want to talk about is the battery. It ejects during a crash. One way to fix that is to take a piece of Velcro and run it down the center of your battery, and corresponding on the frame, you see I just have a piece of Velcro running down that small piece of the frame right there, and that coupled with the strap that's included works very well. It's extremely effective. So you guys, if you have a lost model buzzer, go ahead and stuff that bad boy on there because you're not going to be ejecting batteries anymore. Let's talk about these motor tabs. These motor tabs are extremely too thin, and instead of breaking props, what happens is these motor tabs break off. So I have made myself a couple motor mounts. The great thing about the motor mounts is because of the rubber grommets, the vibration dampeners actually creates a little space between the frame. Let me see if I can get a better shot of it. Yep, that's my son Jaden. Creates a little space there, so if you get the appropriate heads on the hardware, they can still fit without countersinking. Although I did countersink a couple of them. There's a motor mount I made there. Here's one that's countersunk in the middle there, which keeps the bolts from riding the frame, causing vibrations, and fits a little bit better. But while we're talking about the motors, one thing I also want to address is if you smack a prop in midair against something, like maybe trying to navigate through something small, what happens is the spinners fly off the motor. My recommendation would be for version 2 to have counter rotating threads on half of the motors. That way when it hits something, it tightens them up instead of ejecting. And you know, we can't just go buy ourselves another spinner. We got to buy a whole new motor. But I highly recommend, if you break the motor tabs, just make yourself some of these little motor mounts here and save yourself some money and call it a day. You don't need to use any silly zip ties or anything to secure your motors. I actually don't even understand when somebody said use zip ties, because if the motor tabs broke off, then what in the world are you zip tying? But you know, we're all just trying to come up with the good ideas here. I get it, but that was just silly. Since we're talking about securing things down, the I/O board, which houses all your ESCs, in a crash, I fell about 70 feet. And everything dislocated from the frame, including the I/O board, which was okay because I found it and everything, but I bent some of the pins, and after that, everything wasn't working properly. So I had to check continuity pins. It was just a process. So I recommend not using a zip tie, but I do recommend using one of those lightweight Velcro strips. Alright, talking about the battery, one thing I found helpful is just to get some of these battery markers. They help you identify if the battery has been used or not, because if you get a whole bunch of them, you start getting confused. So these just tell you if they're dead or if they're green, good to go. HobbyKing.com has those. Also got this antenna from Hobby King. I like the low profile stature of it, although it does not work as well as the Bluebeam Ultras. I have the air screw and the Mad Mushroom. I do, however, intend on cutting this down to size and making this shorter. Yeah, Jaden. Singing. I forgot to mention earlier, talking about these prop spinners flying off. One thing you could do is use the blue Loctite on them and secure them down pretty tight, and it should help you from ejecting spinners. Another method is to get these. These specific ones are from Traxxas, but they are aluminum flanged lock nuts, and these are 4mm. There was some talk out there on the forums about 2mm, but they are 4mm. You can get them on Amazon, from China, all over the place. Purple, red, blue, silver, you name it. I don't have these on because they look pretty silly with the green props, but with the black props they look pretty nice. I also have the silver ones, but I mean, clearly they're not as trick as these spinners are, but they will save you some weight. And in addition to saving you some weight, my son Jaden is trying to talk to y'all. In addition to saving some weight, you're not going to eject them off. They're going to hold securely. I also decided not to get the 200 milliwatt video transmitter that comes with it. Instead, I opted to get the 500 milliwatt Boss. Let me tell you guys, that thing is amazing. It does not drop off at all. I can fly within the range of my Orange RX satellite, I believe it's the R100, and not get any drop off at all. Lastly, I'd just like to say that there's a lot of great things about this model. There's definitely a lot of thought and innovation that went into it, which will ultimately push other vendors and companies to keep innovating, which will ultimately benefit us, the hobbyist. So, good work, TBS. Looking forward to version 2. Person of my skill level, I've been flying remote control aircrafts for about 12 years now. Helicopters, then airplanes, aerobatics, 3D, into multi-rotors and FPV. I'm very impressed with this model. It's not perfect. It does need to address the motor tabs, the mounting for the canopy. I would counterclockwise rotate 3 motors threads. Also look into securing down the I/O board with a Velcro strap, or maybe an elastic band like a rubber band, or like the one that holds the battery in. Consider using the aluminum flange lock nuts in place of the spinners, or using some blue Loctite. But there's a lot of great things about this. Coming from a QAV 250, I thoroughly enjoy flying this, flipping over my house and just having a good time with it, not having to tune it so much, having a ready to fly or bind and fly pretty much package. But that's my thoughts on it. Good job, TBS. Can't wait to see what you come up with next.
If you're still recording, fuck yeah! I've been looking forever for you. You little son of a bitch, you had me scared. Don't you ever do that to me again.